Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks, Christine.
Well, we've heard a lot about the security changes, but tell us about some of the more recent ones.
Well, as we all know, there's a ban on liquid products, which is liquids and gels. So the day that it happened, unfortunately for a lot of travelers, they were throwing away very expensive hand creams and gels and hairsprays because they found out that day. What's tended to happen over time is that consumers have adjusted and travelers have adjusted, and so they recognize what they need to pack, and they've packed much lighter. And the issue tends to be marketing-wise. How do they then get these products once they arrive at their destination area?
I know I had a friend come in for the weekend and she just checked it instead of carrying it on because sometimes it's too hard.
Checking tends to help, and also a lot of times people are shipping things, which is also a good idea if you know ahead of time and you can get it to your destination area.
So you mentioned what people are doing after they get there to maybe purchase these things. How is this affecting businesses?
Oh, it's affecting businesses incredibly. And you know, it's interesting because this happened literally overnight, and a lot of the hotels, rental car agencies responded immediately. I found it very interesting that if you're traveling through Avis Rent-A-Car, they have a relationship now with Procter & Gamble, and you can get Crest products for free, the little baskets of complimentary items. Hotels did the same thing that day and have continued to provide a lot of complimentary products. And they've expanded the products they would typically give you, so you might be able to get contact lens solution, water, hair gels, hairsprays, things that typically you got the shampoos and conditioners and soaps, but now they've expanded to a lot of other things as well. Also, you've got manufacturers such as luggage who have created different forms of luggage, so that way you can put and protect a lot of these liquids in your suitcases. So if you are checking it and the suitcase gets squished, a lot of times the product won't destroy all the clothing that you have in the suitcase.
Well, and that's one reason a lot of people didn't like to check it, because
it
squishes out all your clothes.
And it's interesting, a lot of the things that are banned and not banned. You've got lipstick, solid lipstick you can take, but you can't take lip gloss. You can take solid deodorant, but you can't take the gel form. You can't have the special gels, things that you put in your shoes. You can't take sunscreen. But yet people can still take knitting needles, and you can still take, you know, a lot of other items like that. Corkscrews are allowed. So it's interesting what is approved and what isn't approved as far as security measures.
What's the best way to find out if you are traveling and you're not sure what is? Because it can get confusing.
Oh, absolutely.
And it changes back and forth sometimes.
Right. And my advice is always check a few days before, because things do change on a regular basis. And so there's online sites. I would say go to the airport site, Pittsburgh, Greater Pittsburgh Airport, and they will tell you specifically, or the airline that you're traveling on, they will tell you what the current regulations are.
Now, speaking of the Pittsburgh Airport, we have that great Air Mall, which people used to fly in to go shopping, but that kind of changed when the gate and boarding pass thing changed. What's happening now with these new security
measures? It changed in an interesting format, because typically a lot of people would be buying things before they got on air. Now they're doing it as they land, and so we're finding a lot of the hometown people maybe shopping in the Pittsburgh Airport as compared to, you know, when they're coming home versus heading out. Airports, you know, it's interesting because they've now provided a lot more toiletries, small sample type size items, which they maybe had supplied the larger products. Restaurants, you would think, would maybe be hurting their sales, but they're booming, because I guess people, instead of being able to carry on your Diet Coke and all of your beverages and foods that you would typically buy that you can't now carry on, they're eating at the airport themselves. And so that's a good news for a lot of the restaurants.
So, for example, since you can't bring a water past security, you buy it once you're past, drink it before you get on, and then get on the plane.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, airlines have you know, also accommodated passengers, so they're providing more liquids and beverages and food products that they, as you know, we cut back because of the expenses, and so now they've had to add them once again on board.
I know whenever my mom flies in, she always buys makeup and lotions at the Clinique counter, and I understand that a lot of them are also shipping to help make up for that.
Yes, which helps tremendously. So if you are buying products at an airport and then you're going to be boarding a plane, shipping is probably your best option, and a lot of times they're doing it free or at a very, very low cost. There's one benefit, though, to the new regulations, and people are boarding much quicker and airlines are moving much faster, because what we found is people don't have as much stuff, and so as a result, airlines are typically on time or even earlier. So that's one advantage to
So they don't have those big bulky carry-ons they're trying to jam in the overhead.
Well, hopefully most people don't. But you know, it's interesting, there's a website, if you went to MSNBC's website, if your viewers wanted to check, they have a little game you could play where you could screen luggage yourself. And it's very fascinating, because then they test you afterwards and tell you what your score is. And it's very difficult to determine, you know, if this is a hidden weapon or if this is a specific liquid or explosives. And so, you know, you got to give a lot of credit to the security people, because it's a tremendously difficult job. And, you know, people's lives are in their hands, and yet you don't want to inconvenience passengers and really pull a lot of luggage off of the conveyor belts.
Any specific advice or tips for travelers?
Yeah, lots of advice. Obviously, travel light, you know, as little as possible. We talked about shipping is always a good thing. Go online beforehand to determine what you need. And really, you know, I would always recommend buy things once you arrive at your destination area.
Dr. Audrey Guskey, always insightful and helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Always great to be here.
And just ahead.